All right, y'all. Get yourself something to drink. Get yourself something to snack on. Get comfortable. This is gonna be a long one. I don't think this has ever been done before. I've never seen a Honda or really any bike have a foot shift transmission failure. So this ought to be interesting. All right. So for those of you who don't know this or aren't familiar with the channel, this is my 2012 Honda Rancher 420. It's a two-wheel drive, foot shift, keep that in mind. You'll see why in a minute. When I first bought this bike, about a little over 3 years ago, I had to put a new crank in it, new top end, so it's been rebuilt. In the 3 years I've had it, it has been to hell and back.
You want to see some real speed, bitch?
Now you're probably wondering, why do I have a monster? What's about to happen? Why am I dressed like I'm about to get really dirty? Well, it needs to be rebuilt again. And you're probably thinking, well, why does it need to be rebuilt? You just drove it on screen. It sounds good. Yeah, it does. It runs really good. It drives pretty good, but fourth gear is completely gone on it. It smokes a little bit, and fifth gear is like, it jumps out of fifth gear every now and then. So it's gonna get completely rebuilt from top to bottom, the engine anyway. It's had a bunch of suspension work done lately, so all that's pretty good. Engine just needs to be completely redone. Needs new transmission, might put some new clutches in there while I'm at it. Put a new top end on there while I'm at it. But since it still runs in first, second, and third gear, it's still perfectly fine. Let's do some donuts around the yard real quick before we get started. So first gear is fine. Second gear is fine. Third gear is fine. This is fourth. And now we're in neutral. So yeah, that's why it's getting rebuilt. Whoa. Alright, let's quit playing around and let's get to work. I'm going to start out by draining the oil and the coolant. I'm going to film as much of this as I can, but try to save most of the video for whenever we get to the serious, like to the transmission rebuild and stuff, actually getting the motor apart. That's interesting. We got a leak there. Thermostat's leaking maybe? Oh yeah, that's what it is. Huh, okay. Alright, well this is, as you can imagine, this is pretty time consuming, but I'll explain basically how this works. So, obviously the fuel tank has to come off, and fuel lines are going to come out from the fuel pump there. They're just under this cover. Intake's going to have to come off, or the whatever you call this, the throttle body. This is a fuel injected bike, so that's the throttle body. Comes off of there. After the tank comes off, this plastic comes off, and you can get to all this a lot easier. Actually, I can just yank this off right now. It's the ignition coil and the spark plug wire. Spark plug. Then the exhaust is going to come off with there's two studs right there, nuts, and it's going to come off right here. Assuming these aren't seized, which they do get seized sometimes, so it can be a pain. I'm told I can pull the motor out without taking the top end off. This footwell is going to come off, and supposedly I can just rock it out. So I'm going to try that. If that doesn't work, I'll just go ahead and take the top end off because it's coming off anyway. I'm going to go ahead and get all this stuff on the top off, and then
I'll be back.
All right, we're, I'd say, about halfway there. Got the tank and all the plastics off. Now I just got to get the exhaust and intake off, and well, that's pretty much it if I'm going to just try and pull the motor with the head still on it. So, oh, and another thing I forgot to mention. I mentioned in the beginning of the video that it is a foot shift. The reason I said that is because I've never seen a foot shift bike have transmission problems, and I don't know anybody who has. And I don't really see any of it on YouTube or on the internet much at all. So it's usually the electric shift. Those, yeah, electric shift bikes, those will have transmission problems a lot, but never foot shift. So something interesting happened in there, and I cannot wait to see what it is. So I got lucky with these exhaust bolts. I had put some Never Sees on these. I just remembered, and they came out pretty easily. So yeah, if you're ever doing anything with exhaust, whenever you put it back together, put some Never Sees or something on those bolts so they don't fry up and become a nightmare to get off. I'm gonna keep going. So we're pretty much at the moment of truth. I've loosened the nut from there, disconnected the exhaust, disconnected all the wiring, disconnected the reverse cable. I didn't want to undo the airbox, but I ended up having to because it's kind of annoying. Starter wire right there was like right butt up against the airbox, and I couldn't get a ratchet in there to get that off. And also kind of annoying, there's two ground wires. There's one that connects right to the starter and one that connects to the block. Got all those off, double checked, everything is off now. Engine is ready to come out. I just gotta remove these bolts. There's one here and there's one on the other side. And then actually undoing the intake kind of worked out because I was able to pop that off pretty easily, so that's free. So now I just got to remove these bolts, and then when I do that, it's going to free these spacers. And when I take those out, the whole thing is going to be able to shift forward. It's going to come out of the drive shaft right there, and then I'm told I can just rock it and pull it out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these bolts, and then
Shove it up your ass.
if I fall and break my back or something, make sure you just forward, and then get the drive shaft off. Okay, well, drive shaft's coming out back here. I want it to come off right here. All right, I'm gonna try to encourage the drive shaft backwards a little bit with a mallet. There it goes. There we go. Now, drive shaft's out of the way. See if we can get this thing out without pulling my back out. Or smashing my hand. Or breaking it.
A few moments later.
It's hung up right here, down here somewhere. Oh, I see, it's hung up on the motor mount. So, trying to be somewhat careful, he says. Really don't want to bust it open.
One eternity later.
Oh. There we go. It's a boy. She's out. Or he's out. Ooh, look at all the crap that's under here. Not a bad time to clean all that out while I'm under here. Alright, next up, take this to the shop and tear it all down and see what happened.
2 days later.
Hey, good morning, y'all. It's Thursday morning. Got it all loaded up. Let's get a cold start on the camera real quick, huh? Oh, yeah. Reason we're going there is because I don't really have the tools for this, and also I don't have a whole lot of space in my little shed and in my backyard. I don't want to make all that mess. And also, the guy that runs this shop is has a lot of experience, and I actually used to work for him, and he's gonna help me get some parts and all that. So, all right, I stopped for breakfast. My breakfast of choice is grilled cheese burrito from Taco Bell. These are so good. They're like $5. They're a little bit on the expensive side, but it's a limited time thing. So if they're still out by the time I upload this, you better go get you one before they're gone. Ultra Strawberry Dreams Monster Energy. They just came out with this, and it is so good. It's pretty much become my new go-to energy drink. Really good. Doesn't make me sick either. So I'm gonna hurry up and eat, and then we're gonna get on the road and get to the shop. Man, this traffic is ridiculous this morning. I'm trying to get somewhere. Before I start tearing apart, I'm cleaning it with some aluminum brightener. Just let that soak for a minute. And once it's soaked, give it a little scrub-a-dub. Let's pull this head off and see what's underneath. Well, still a decent crosshatch in there. Cylinders usually don't get too much damage, but gotta take that cylinder off and see how the piston looks. I'm gonna go ahead and take these two 10mm bolts out and pull this cylinder off and see what else we can find. Need a mallet or something. That's pretty good. Yeah. A little shiny on the bottom. There's still a crosshatch.
Would it start smoking?
It would only smoke if I would leave it sit idle, and like if I was like sitting in the woods after it'd been running for a while and it was in the woods and it was hot and I'd let it sit idle, it would start smoking a lot. Yeah, but once I start moving again, it would clear up. Damn thing's on bottom dead center and I can't get it back out. Yeah, I'd take this whole cover off to get to this bolt because it's on top, bottom, center, and I want to be able to see what's going on here. So I'm just gonna get this little. There we go. That's weird. Nemura logo is still on this side, but it's completely worn off of this side, but it doesn't look that terrible.
Yeah, that's the way the piston is in the cylinder. The way when it torques down, it pushes it because that's out of the cylinder.
Yeah. Okay, so this doesn't look terrible, but it's the other side. This side doesn't get as much force, so it's a little better off. And the cylinder isn't all that bad either. Probably just gonna run a hone through it and reuse this. So like if I check the ring gap, are you saying I could reuse these rings, or?
You're gonna have to change it. Well, you can reuse the rings, but it's still gonna smoke. I mean, if you're gonna reuse the rings, you just assume use the same piston.
Yeah.
Watch, let's take it.
Yeah, and push the piston in there and get it flat.
Square it up, yeah. Probably need to get a tool to filler gauge and measure it, but it don't look terrible. It's a little wide, but
yeah,
probably get away with it.
Pull that piston out and do it right. Okay, so I checked the wrist pin on camera focus. God damn it, there we go. It looks a little scored, but there's like pretty much no play in that whatsoever. So that's good. That's in good shape. Lower rod bearing. I mean, there's a little bit there, but that's normal. So crank's in good shape, even after being on the rev limiter for probably God knows how long. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and check this ring gap just for the hell of it, and then I guess I'll take this side cover off and see how much metal shavings we got sitting in the bottom of there. All right, so we checked the ring gaps, and they're actually kind of tight. They're well within tolerance, so we think this piston and cylinder and the rings are all good. Now, when I had this apart, I noticed there was a lot of oil sitting on the intake valve. So I'm betting the valve seals are probably bad and the top end is fine. So I may reuse this piston and the rings. I'm just gotta resurface this, run a hone through the cylinder because it's a little weird looking in there. And that's all good. But yeah, I may reuse that or I may get another piston, but top end looks like it's in pretty good shape. So we're gonna put that aside and we're gonna start getting into the bottom end now. Stator. Magnets on the stator, we're holding it in. Oh, shit. Oh, there's my starter gear pin. The shim fell off. That shim goes right here for the reverse safety switch thing. That's the shifter. This is the output shaft. Surprisingly, I don't see, well, there's a few little chunkies down there. but not that bad. That's the stator. Shifter. That's the actual shifter. That's this. You hit your foot on this and it moves that up and down, and that pushes up and down on this. And then that's the sensor. It tells the dash lights what gear you're in. It's actually not a whole lot of metal on the bottom of here. So far, this teardown is not looking quite as bad as I thought it would. There's also a shim right here on the output shaft of the transmission. Try not to lose that. So yeah, don't lose this one, this shim here, that shim there. Pretty much it. Not a whole lot of metal in here either. Looks way better in here than the first time I rebuilt it. Yeah, way better. Works right now. Yeah. That's what I'm hearing, that noise in there? Alright, so oil pump there, timing chain. Timing chain actually feels pretty good. There's some clutches in here that I need to look at, see if they're good. And then these, so this is your power takeoff. And then these are the clutches that engage whenever you shift. And they've been slipping a little bit, so I'm gonna take that out and check those. Looking pretty good so far. Just gotta see what's going on with that transmission. I don't see anything obvious from up here, but there we go. Grab the flywheel. This should just come out, huh? Or we gotta. Oh hell.
I knew somebody that can leash you one.
Oh shit. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna pull this off. No.
It screws this on here.
That's a special tool. So.
I'd replace those too.
Yeah. This is the one-way bearing. Makes it to where this will turn one way. So like if you're coasting down a hill or something, you're trying to kick it down a gear or two to engine brake, that's the one-way bearing's job of holding that so it doesn't slip when these clutches aren't engaged because the engine is at too low of an RPM. Basically just helps with engine braking. And if that one-way bearing is bad, it'll, like once the engine gets to a low enough RPM that these clutches aren't sitting on the bell anymore, you'll just start rolling away and you'll have to flip the throttle, get the clutches to re-engage, and it's annoying. So this is probably getting replaced. Hell yeah. Special tools.
Transmission pro, by the time he gets done, muscle up on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, I took the bolts on the inside in.
That generally works for that too. Right here. That won't hurt it. It's already going with that. Might want to take all the bolts out.
Did. Thought I did. Alright. What did I miss? Oh.
I do that all the time. Don't feel bad.
I'm so ashamed.
You took all the bolts out, dumbass.
Hey, there we go.
You got the ones on the other side? Because they get two on the other side.
Yep, I got that. You building Legos?
Yeah, that's what I do. You can take these off too. Push these through.
Okay.
Get those out of there. So that.
Oh, they come all the way.
That out.
That makes me so horny.
I'm gonna step away from the guy.
Alright. Pull this out.
First lock out.
Shift drum.
Shift plugs out.
How do they look?
You gotta measure the distance with the service spec. That's fine. Bad.
Oh, wow.
So That one's okay, but this one's
That's not, no. That might be the problem.
some of it. That one's starting to get some wear, but it's not too bad.
No, reverse gear.
Reverse idler.
Oops, shaft stay behind. Here, I'll push it out.
Yeah, push it up. There you go.
What do we got here?
Let's see what you got here.
That's first.
Yeah, those look okay.
What's that, third?
They don't look that bad either. There's your problem right there.
Oh, yeah, that's not supposed to be round like that.
But you're gonna have to change this with this together.
Okay.
These two.
So those are rounded off. How's these? Yeah, that's rounded off also.
Yeah, well they match, so you need to change this.
Smooth. So that's it. There's our problem.
That's it.
Rounded off dogs on this on the fourth gear on the output shaft.
Over there.
And is that for fourth? Oh yeah, you can.
See that one?
That's fifth, isn't it?
That's, I don't know.
I think that is fifth.
Yeah, not sure.
Well, fifth was slipping out of gear every now and then, so that right there is probably why.
You can see how bad it is on that one.
And I would also suspect these one of these shift forks,
Yeah, for sure.
like that's
I just dragged y'all through if they're not terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you just gonna do the whole, somebody can buy the whole assembly.
yeah, I'd probably just get the whole transmission. This thing looks like it's seen better days. So basically what's happening, we let that fall apart and it was a mess. And about after 20 minutes of me fucking with it, now he looks like he got it pretty much back together. Really not a whole lot of parts bikes around here that he has, but there is an electric shift, 2-wheel drive, 420 that he has. And we did some research and we think that the transmission itself is interchangeable with a foot shift, even though it's electric shift. The you said the shift drum and the forks and everything are the same, right?
Yep, looks all the same.
So we're gonna try and take that out and use that. If not, I'm gonna have to end up spending potentially hundreds of dollars on just individual parts on this. Like, what was it? I think this one gear here.
Right, the third and fourth combo was like $200 and something.
Yeah, and then the fork that I need, this one, the middle one. Like these two were like $11 a piece, but this one was what? Something like
$11. Oh, $62.
$62 for the one that I need and $11 for the ones I don't need. So hopefully I don't have to go that route, and hopefully this the parts off of this electric shift bike will work out. So I guess the next thing to do is to go out there and take the motor out of that and see what we can do with it. So this is the bike, well, what used to be the bike. Pretty much same thing, it's just an electric shift. So hopefully whatever's in there will work with what I need. All right, this is how we're transporting it to the to the work area. I've never seen a four-wheeler carrying another four-wheeler like that before. Okay, well, I took the drain bolt out and that's what's coming out of it. But I'm sure the transmission's fine. Transmission sits kind of high. We'll see. Take it all apart. There's only one way to find out. Film much of this, but this is a the cylinder was full of water, but insides don't look too bad, so we're gonna go ahead with it. That was the cylinder. That's all the water that was in the cylinder. Got that cover off and made a huge mess, and it's looks delicious.
One day later.
So it's the next day. It's Friday now. Let that drain overnight, and I'm gonna go ahead and take all that apart and clean it. I'm not gonna film all that, but I was looking at the shift drum off of mine, and I noticed that is stripped pretty good, so pretty sure this shift drum ain't no good. Hopefully the one in there is good. Hopefully all that's the same as this. And if it is, I'm gonna take everything out of that you see here, and it's gonna replace all of this, because this is all just not good. So I didn't film too much today. We got that motor apart and looked at the transmission in it, and it looks a lot better than what I was dealing with. It's a little bit rusty and it's a little bit sticky, but a little bit of cleaning should fix that. I swapped the oil pump off of it, and what else? The one-way clutch the centrifugal clutch and a one-way bearing. So now I just gotta order all the new parts. I gotta order some new clutches, not the centrifugal clutch, but the other clutch. I gotta order that and a few other little things. We'll be back in about a week or two, hopefully, assuming none of it's on back order. And I'm gonna end part 1 right here. So hopefully you enjoyed and you weren't too bored. But yeah, check back in about a week or two.
Like, you took all the boats out, dumbass.